Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we got some waiver wire edition of the show to go over with you. A few waiver wire editions maybe this week. I'm not sure if there's any real game changers this week either, but I think there might be a starter or two out there for you. Anybody that just started off just before we get into it, just one name, who pops off the screen at you this week? Is there anybody? Probably not. If that's your answer, then there's not. Yep.
No one is a must-add at the moment.
No, that's pretty much what I thought. There's not one that just stepped right away. You're like, oh yeah, I got to get this guy. It might mean you hold your auction money this week a little bit, save the number one claim, maybe, I'm thinking. I don't think there's a number one claim guy out there this week. At least, not that I can see right now. Not real, unless you're really, really hurting, maybe at running back, then maybe you have to, but I don't think so. We'll get into all that in a minute. Make sure you check us out on Twitter, at the FF Prophet. We're on Instagram at Fantasy Football Prophet, and if you check us out on Sunday mornings, we're going through start-sit questions. I don't even know how many ended up answering, like 200-300 questions on Sunday morning. So hopefully I answered them right for you guys. It's not going to be perfect, but hopefully gave you some good advice. I think I told quite a few people to start Martavis Bryant, so he rewarded them with that touchdown. And you can also check us out, fantasyfootballprophet.com. We'll have our rankings there this week. We'll also have our waiver wire rankings there, so you can go check those out and see if there's anybody you want to add. So let's just get right into it, Jeff. The number one ad I have this week, see if you agree, I have Chris Carson as my number one ad because, it's a kind of a mix. It's Chris Carson, or you could say it's Buck Allen, Javorius Allen. The problem with Allen is, depends on which provider you're playing on here. Our standard is typically 50% of, they have to be owned in 50% of leagues or less on ESPN, which Buck Allen's about 8.2% owned right now, or something like that. Ridiculous. I saw that number and I'm just shocked. I don't know why it's so low. On Yahoo, he's owned in 55% of leagues. So, it's a big difference there.
Yeah, it surprised me because Chris Carson is actually owned a tiny bit more than Buck Allen.
I don't get it. So, I don't know what's up with that. So, it is kind of I know Buck Allen's not going to be out there in a lot of people's leagues. But it's basically, it would be Buck Allen number one, Chris Carson number two. So, it just depends on which, where you're playing. And he has to be under Yahoo. So, basically, talk about both of them. I'll talk about Carson first. It's because it looks like Carson has an actual, I think he's the starting running back for the Seahawks right now. 20 carries? I think that shows that's where Pete Carroll's going. But with Pete Carroll, you don't know. That's the worry I would have about, spending my money on an auction budget or my claim on Chris Carson, because this has happened before. Ever since Lynch has been gone, Thomas Rawls was the guy for a little bit. How about last year? Does anybody remember Christian Michael? Remember how good he was at one point? And he was off the team like 6 weeks later. He was really, really good. And even, before his injury last year, CJ Prosise was getting a lot of work. And where is he right now? He's on the team, but he's not doing much. So this is something that could change in no time. And then again, Chris Carson, he's an undrafted free agent, rookie. Those work out sometimes. Yeah, it's not like they haven't. Arian Foster, in the past. I don't think this is an Arian Foster type talent. So what are you thinking? You're not confident. I'm not confident. I don't think you are.
No, I have a hard time buying into this one right now. It's very, very evident, right? Obviously, he got 20 carries. Thomas Rawls was playing as well. So, obviously, the fact is that game, he was, either Rawls is kind of not as healthy as they thought, or maybe Carson was doing well enough so they didn't have to play him. There's a couple of different ways to look at this. With me, I don't trust that Carson is always going to be the guy. I think at best he's going to be part of that committee. And right now they have, if you throw him in the mix, they still have 4 different running backs that have, at one point, been very popular waiver pickup or very popular as, early rankings, or, there's just too much to factor in right now. I think it's a jumble. If you want to take a risk on him or, throw a couple bucks at him, that's totally fine. It's one of those guys. I don't think this is a must-add. I just don't see him developing into a go-to guy.
Yeah, and I don't think he's not, to me, of like an extremely talented running back. He's a pretty average running back. I don't really think that he's all that much better than Thomas Rawls is, honestly. Maybe he just will do more of what Carroll wants. And that's, that could have a lot to do with it, because Thomas Rawls isn't this overwhelming talent either. So Rawls trying to bounce plays outside and do whatever he wants to do, it just doesn't probably work out with what Carroll wants. He wants him to just try to go maybe up the middle a little bit. Maybe, obviously, an undrafted rookie free agent running back you can control a little bit. I mean, that was Thomas Rawls.
It was.
It was just Thomas Rawls, but that's already, that was, 2 years ago? That's who he was, but...
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carson is still technically fourth on the depth chart. And maybe if that wasn't the situation at the moment, because you still have Thomas Rawls, who came back from injury, he was playing last game. Eddie Lacy, who is, who knows? I mean, I
would just say right away, that's like my worst call of the year.
Eddie Lacy.
Let's erase those podcasts.
And then CJ Prosise, who, looked really, really good at one point as well. Everyone kind of liked him. So I think this offense is in such a bad way at the moment that it's pretty much impossible to pick out which one is going to be the guy for the rest of the year. If you need it for next week, Chris Carson, he's probably a legitimate pickup.
For next week, for sure. But would next week surprise you if all of a sudden CJ Prosise was the guy getting the work?
I would not be surprised at all.
That's the problem.
Rawls got every single carry.
Yep. And that's my problem with the Chris Carson thing. Yeah, if you can get him and not spend a lot or get him on a deeper waiver claim, do it. I mean, it's not like he's not worth an ad. He's definitely worth an ad. I just don't think this is the game changer, running back. And who knows? We might be completely wrong, but there's just so many factors going into it and so many running backs that could be there. I mean, because it wouldn't shock me if Eddie Lacy got some work again in the next week or two. It's just, you don't know. You just don't know. But to top it off, that offensive line is terrible.
Yeah, they are really bad.
They just are. Wilson is just out there running for his life all day. And I just don't know if that offense is going to be able to do anything with how bad that line is. So that's going to be my hesitation. The next guy, I guess, we'll talk about Allen, about Buck Allen here. If he is available in your league, he should be the number one claim. And he out-carried Terrence West. And it's not even going to be that. Even if he splits with Terrence West, Woodhead's is gone on IR. So Allen's going to be that pass-catching back. And I think he's going to get plenty of work there. So he is going to be valuable. And I think he's going to be like a 10-point-a-week guy in a standard league almost every time. He's going to be around that level. He's going to have some weeks like this with 16, but he's going to have... He might be he's like an 8 to 10 point floor guy in a standard, and even better in PPR. So I'd definitely pick him up, and he's probably worth a play at a flex right now. Just would have listened to myself about 2 weeks ago. He'd be on my team. You can't predict injury. You didn't know Danny Woodhead would get hurt. That's why if Danny Woodhead was still here, he wouldn't be this guy. But he's going to kind of go into that role with even more carries.
And I think Buck Allen is looking like a legitimate option. I think he probably is the best waiver option that is still out there. Like you said, I like the consistency of it. And West, as we've said many, many times, we're not that enthralled with him.
No.
So the fact that it looks like Buck Allen kind of already outplayed him, he's better in the passing game. Danny Woodhead goes down. It's just everything kind of the C split, and all he has to do is do his job and not fumble the ball, and he'll be at least a legitimate, flex option for you. And I like the fact that in that offense, he's going to have that just nice floor. I don't think he's going to be he's not going to win you weeks, but he's definitely not going to lose you weeks, and he's going to have to be wonderful to have on your bench.
Yep. No, I completely agree. This is going to be just a good player. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so. I think Buck Allen will be a very good pickup.
Let's see here.
Until Woodhead comes back.
Which could happen later in the year.
Yeah.
We don't know. All right, the next guy I have on the list. Actually, I had a couple guys' choice. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with Samaje Perine. Because, we don't know about Rob Kelly's injury right now. This is completely based on injury. So, the problem with this is based off if Kelly's going to be out for a week or two, which I don't know if he will. I had no idea. So, it's more of a play if Kelly's out. I think Perine's going to get the majority of the main back role. Chris Thompson, though, is still going to get plenty of work. Thompson's over our threshold for our ranks in ESPN leagues, but I don't believe he is in Yahoo leagues. He's below it. So if Chris Thompson's out there in Yahoo leagues, if you're playing Yahoo, I'd probably slot him about right here, about the same spot. I'd still probably put the others ahead of him because Thompson did it he had a couple big plays, and I don't know how sustainable it is. I think he's going to get plenty of work too, but I just think Buck Allen's going to get more work than him maybe. little bit. It's going to
agree.
be so, but he'd probably slot here. But this is basically based off of if Kelly's out, I think they'll give Samaje Perine a lot of carries, and they showed they will. He didn't do a lot with them, and I don't think he's not some special talent.
No, but he is a very strong logo,
Yes.
and I mean, they gave him 21 carries, and he didn't get one in week 1.
Yep.
So obviously that's because of the Kelly injury as well. But at the same time, you don't go from 0 to 21 and they have no confidence in you whatsoever. So I think he is going to be the, first 2 downs, grind it out, or if they're up, which right now it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But,
No.
yeah, but Chris Thompson seems like he's going to be the home run hitter. Perine, for now, is going to be the grind him out back. And the great thing about him is we really don't know what he is yet.
No.
So he got 21 carries. If he doesn't put the ball on the ground, he got 67 yards with that. If he develops, if he kind of gets more comfortable in the game, hitting gaps, doing, bullying people over because he's so strong, he could add to that yardage. And who knows? You throw in a couple goal line carries, and all of a sudden this guy is a very, very deadly player. So I do like his upside. I like Buck Allen better. I still like Chris Thompson better. But I think this guy is a great one to get now, because heaven forbid Kelly is a longer injury than we think. You're going to get him before anyone else knows about him.
Yeah, and even if Kelly's going to be playing this week or even next week, it could happen again. He can get hurt. It seems like he's that type of runner that might get hurt a few times. So I have a guy like Perine who's going to get all the carries, because there's not many guys out there that are getting all these carries. So
20 carries? No.
Yeah, it's just not a normal thing right now. All right, so the next guy. This is who I have on my list next, Jeff. See if you agree. Alvin Kamara, my next player on my list.
No, I actually do. But go ahead. You tell the people why.
He's at 14.5% owned right now. I am pretty much convinced at this point that Adrian Peterson isn't Adrian Peterson. I think it's pretty clear. He's just not the same back right now. He thinks he is, but he's not. And he doesn't have the same speed he does. And there's linebackers running with him now. It's just he's not the same player. And I think Sean Payton sees that. And like we talked about if you listened to yesterday, there's something about it that Sean Payton doesn't like Mark Ingram. And I don't get it, because I think Mark Ingram's a good running back. And I think if Mark Ingram was getting 20 carries a game, he would be, he'd be top 10 easily. But he's not, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So Kamara, I just have this. This is more of a feeling based. And I guess seeing Kamara, and I mean, he was very productive in college on limited work. And I feel like he's going to be like that now. He's going to be able to put up numbers with not getting, I see his max going to be 10 carries in a game kind of a thing. But he's always going to pick up 3, 4, 5 catches. And that's how it seems like they're going to be using him. And with that, I think he's going to be becoming more valuable and more valuable as we go on. Because I don't see the team's already 0-2. They're not looking good. They can't play defense. It's just going to be I think it's going to be a long year for the Saints. Why do they need to play Adrian Peterson? Even why do you need to play Mark Ingram if he's not part of your future? Because I don't feel like he is. I think they're going to get more, let Kamara show some more. And it's just going to become more and more work as the year goes on, as they're not quite in the season. They're not quite in the running. So he's a good player.
Yep. And I think you hit on it, where in that scenario right now where you have 3 running backs that they're trying to get work to, I think Kamara is the one that benefits from that the most, because I think he can produce with those limited touches. And I think Ingram needs, he needs a lot of touches. He needs those double-digit touches to really get in the groove of a game. And if Payton's not going to give it to him, he's not going to look as good. Because obviously we know that he can. But and also they're going to have to throw a ton because their defense is so bad. Kamara is the best pass catcher by far. He had 7 targets last game. Unfortunately, I think he only caught 3 of them. But that'll improve. And his numbers, he went from 3.8 to 5.4. I could see that continuing to increase until he hits probably like 8. And then if they decide to lean more his way, then I think we would see that huge explosion of points. And hopefully, if they're smart, they try to trade one of those guys away. If you're not going to use them, especially AP.
Yeah.
I think they thought they were going to be better than they were. So if they have any buyers whatsoever, they would slim it down to 2 running backs, and then he would get a lot more work. Once again, that's total speculation. That's a gut feeling. But at the same time, that's why I like Kamara. I think this one's probably a little early. You're not going to play him. But once again, for having that kind of talent, I think he's the guy they're going to have to stash ahead of time and hope he hits that a week before. Because otherwise, someone's going to spend their whole budget on him because he had so much hype going into the draft even.
All right, another running back I'm just going to throw out here. They're not as excited about him right now, but I can see the potential and the possible work increase. It's Deontay Foreman. 12 carries last week. I mean, if you're going to get a running back that's 12 carries, he becomes valuable at any stage. Like any running back who's going to get 12 carries in a game is valuable in today's NFL. So Foreman's going to be up there. We can already kind of it feels like it could be trending his way. You know what I mean? You can kind of feel it, kind of see it. Lamar Miller's never been anything special, and he's into year 2 there in Houston for him, and he's not doing it much. He's just not showing that he's any kind of special running back. So why not give the rookie a chance? Maybe the rookie's special. Maybe Foreman's special. We don't know. You never know with these NFL running backs. That's the thing. You don't know. And so why not give another guy a shot who seems like he's probably just as good at this point?
Yeah, I think they're two different players. And I just want to be like, it's beginning. Because he was like
feels like it.
Yeah, he was my sleeper, if you will. Because everyone is very high on Lamar Miller, and I was not. But it's not so much his talent. It's because of how that offense is built right now with a rookie quarterback. Or if it wasn't him, a quarterback that's not any good. Lamar Miller's not built to take 20, 25 carries, really. He's best if you can, give him 12 carries and then put him in the passing game, do special things with him, because he's very athletic, but he's a smaller back. And he's never had to do it. He didn't do that well with it. He didn't handle the carries last year when they gave him the huge bulk. And Deontay Foreman, maybe not quite as, explosive as Miller, but he's built for that. He's built just to ram it down someone's throat, and he's a little more agile than people give credit for. So I really liked him coming on this team. I thought he was a great fit for them. And I kind of predicted that he would start going more half and half around probably like week 5, week 6, but I feel like it's already starting to happen. Like you said, 12 carries already. This team, I don't know exactly how the offense is going to go because, their defense can keep them in it, but I could see them being behind in a lot of games too. But, are you going to give it to Watson and just chuck the ball that many times? That might be deadly. So I like him, but once again, I think he's more a safer play than Kamara. And I think both of them it's early, a week or two to get them now. But at the same time, get them, stash them. And I think Deontay Foreman is going to be worthwhile, and Kamara is more of a home run hit. If something happens, he's probably a better pick.
All right, how about some wide receivers here? You can throw these. There's no, again, there isn't a special wide receiver yet this week that you really need to go get necessarily, but there's guys who I think have some value. So one of my top guys here, I would say, we're actually recording this. The Lions-Giants game is going on as we speak right now. So Kenny Galladay hasn't done anything yet. So I don't even care if he goes 0 for 0 in this game. He's still there. If he's still out there in your league, I still think he's worth a pickup. I don't care if he does nothing this game. He's going to be a touchdown guy, and I think you're going to see more value from it. So still stash him. And ESPN right now, he's owned in 40.9% of leagues. So he's still a guy I would want to put on my bench and just see what he does. So there's that one. Again, I'll just throw some names before we get into the actual ones. Cooper Kupp, again, he's another guy. Nothing special this week, but it's just another stash. Throw him on your bench. Just kind of wait and see. And if, again, he doesn't do much within a few weeks, drop him again. All right, but the top guys I think this week, Marquise Lee. I think he's getting a lot of those targets. He had 7 catches for about, 76 yards. Alan Hearns picked up some later on in garbage time, and that's where Hearns got the touchdown. I still think Lee is a better option, and I feel like he's a better option than Hearns. I think he's a better receiver than Hearns. And, yeah, Hearns is picking up those garbage time touchdowns. The freaking Bortles garbage time touchdown. It's like to make his day respectable and Hearns have a respectable game. I don't know, it just doesn't go away.
Oh man, I miss the days of old when Allen Robinson would catch all those.
It's crazy, but if I had to pick, I'm going with Lee. I know Hearns might get more looks because he had the touchdown, so his numbers end up looking better. He had a couple more yards, but for me it's Lee. I like Lee, and I think he's more consistent.
Yeah, I think he's more of a talented player.
Yeah, and I think when you get a guy on a team like that, you want a guy who's going to be more consistent. I think that's Lee, and so I'm going to say that I'm hyping him up. I talked about Lee a lot in the preseason, so
you did a lot.
So I like him there. So yeah, you go with Lee over Hearns too.
I would,
but Hearns isn't a terrible pickup if you need a wide receiver and you need a guy like he might have some value. I don't feel comfortable playing him probably ever until maybe bye weeks if you're in a really bad bye week situation. But
the truth is, I think they're very similar players.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they're going to be very similar no matter what you do. I just like Lee better as a player.
Yeah, and there could definitely be garbage time there for him this year. Anyway, all right, some other guys. Tyler Lockett. I'm going to talk about Tyler Lockett. 6 catches,
I called it.
64 yards.
I mean, it wasn't a breakout performance.
No, not at all.
At the same time, I liked. I mean, I feel like I kind of called him. 2 years in a row. So you put that into perspective. But at the same time, you're looking for someone to fill that spot where Curse was, where he didn't necessarily was a huge option. He was a great blocker. He did a lot of good things, but he wasn't a huge playmaker. I think Lockett is that guy as long as he can stay healthy. And that was always the knock against him. He's healthy. They need him desperately. They're going to be looking for someone outside, the other side of Baldwin. Lockett is that guy.
Yep.
And I think he's going to continue to get more and more work.
And I don't think it's Paul Richardson. Richardson had 2 catches for 19 yards. He got the touchdown, but that was a crazy broken play that Wilson made happen, and it just happened to be Richardson's the guy who benefited from it. Lockett's clearly, to me, now the guy above Richardson. So if that offensive line can actually start to play a little bit and give Russell Wilson some time, then it can be valuable. If not, I worry about it, and this is probably the best Lockett can do too. So I feel like they have to get better.
Yeah, so I think Lockett is one of those guys that even though you might be a week ahead of it, I think you have to lock him down now because he's a known name anyway,
and we know how talented he is.
Yeah,
so
he's pretty much already the number 2 wide receiver on the Seattle offense. So he's not going to be some surprise. As soon as he catches a touchdown, does anything, everyone's going to be all over him.
Yep. All right, J.J. Nelson, he had a big week,
huge week, and I'll be honest, I don't know what to think of him because, really, week 1 and week 2, he's had touchdown in both, double digits in both. Last week, he had 120 yards, which was very impressive. What do you think about him, on this Cardinals offense?
If John Brown can't get himself healthy, which is, I like John Brown going into the year because I thought he was healthy and I thought if he was here, he'd be probably doing this. It just feels like there's going to be constant worry on John Brown in his health. And if that's the case, J.J. Nelson's the number 1 outside receiver for them. Because Larry Fitzgerald, he's had 2 good matchups, we would have thought, and he hasn't really produced. I mean, maybe age has got to him finally. So I think J.J. Nelson could be the number 1 receiver on this team. Especially without David Johnson there. It's a mess, but he could benefit from it and have some work and good value because that's what it feels like. I think J.J. Nelson's the number 1 receiver because I don't think you can trust John Brown. Especially in fantasy, you can't trust John Brown right now. He might have some better weeks, but there's too much health issues. You can't trust it. And I don't think you can even, it's weird to say, but you feel like you can't trust Larry Fitzgerald right now. He's just not going to put up any kind of big number for you. And what Larry Fitzgerald was able to do before was get those touchdowns. They're not having as many touchdowns. They're going to have to get bigger touchdowns from Nelson. So I think Nelson's the number 1 receiver there, and he could have some value. I mean, this is what he did. I mean, last year, at the end of last season, his last 3 games, he was starting to catch a little bit. He had 5 for 38. Then he went 3 for 132 and a touchdown. Then 4 for 75. But he also had 4 straight games with a touchdown there towards the end. And he also, before that, he had a 2-touchdown game. So last year, he had those 6 touchdowns. He was starting to come on a little bit last year. Like, he shows some signs. So maybe this is just, the evolution of that and the next step for him. He might just be a guy we've kind of overlooked in a way. I don't think he's that amazing. He's only 25 years old. He's a young guy. So I would take a shot at him. I mean, Carson Palmer has to throw the ball somewhere. And it might have to be Nelson.
Yeah.
It's tough, but I just hate the offense right now.
I do too. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't trust the offense. I don't trust Palmer. I think the whole thing is just a mess absolutely right now.
Yep.
I would rather go other places, but I know he's going to be picked up by a lot of people because he had a wonderful game. Yep. He had a good start. I mean, there's no way around it.
All right, some other guys I'm less excited about. Might as well just mention them. Jermaine Kearse. Not a 2-touchdown game, yeah, but it's the Jets. He only had 4 catches. I kind of stay away from that one. I mean, if you have a deep bench and you have a spot and you have nothing there, maybe throw him on your bench. That's fine. I can get that. Running back wise, you could take a chance, throw Chris Johnson on your bench. I mean, he's able to get some work. Kerwin Williams really didn't do much. I'm not excited about the offense, as we said just a second ago. So I'll just stay away. Oh, and Matt Prater just knocked in a 56-yard field goal. Not too bad. So you'll know exactly where we are in time right now. Jalen Richard looked pretty good for the Raiders, but it's still Lynch's team, and he's only going to be able to do that off big plays right now. But maybe if Lynch were to go down, I wonder if Richard's the guy over Washington right now. So maybe it's something to watch out for if you're a Lynch owner. And Jamal Charles had some flashes, but I think it's pretty clearly C.J. Anderson's team. So you might not want to do that. Brandon Coleman had a good game, but that's about it. I don't think that's going to be terribly sustainable. What are some other guys? We can go quarterbacks in a little bit here, but any interest in Nelson Aguilar? I'm not, honestly. I've heard his name thrown out there a little bit because now he's had touchdowns in 2 games. I'm not excited about him. I don't know about you. Do you see anything there?
No, I don't at all.
What about, I guess we have to wait and see these injury news for the Packers. It looks like I think both Nelson and Cobb are going to be fine. But if they're not, do you throw a flyer on Geronimo Allison if you need a spot?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. He was one of those guys I was really upset that he got himself suspended in the beginning of the year because I really liked his upside. I didn't think he was actually going to get to play, right? Because you have, too many guys above him. But when he did get to play last year in the playoffs, short stints, he looked really good. But anyone looks good playing with Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, for 1 week, absolutely, I would have. He would definitely be in the running for my flex position.
I mean, if he became the number 2 receiver for Packers,
if
for 1 week,
yeah. It's not like he's going to play the bench. I'm going to throw him in there.
All right, what about some tight ends? Any tight ends stand out? Not much, really. I mean, maybe Ebron. He scored a touchdown already.
He did. And do you have any? I know you didn't like Olsen in the at all,
but I don't get to have that proven now because he's just hurt.
So he's injured. He's probably out for the year. So right now it looks like Ed Dixon is going to be the guy that fills that slot. They say that they're not going to change their approach, the playbook, anything like that. So he's going to get every opportunity to do it.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of faith in that one, too. If Olsen wasn't really getting it done, I have a hard time believing that a 30-year-old Ed Dixon that has never really done it can do it either. But
no, and there really isn't many. I don't feel like there's a lot of tight end options deeper. I mean, Evan Ingram, he's had, 2 decent weeks now in a row. He got a touchdown today, so he's still trending up maybe, but still nothing you're going to be excited about. There's really not much. There's not much there right now. If Gronk is out any extended period of time, then it's Dwayne Allen probably. But he's done nothing so far. He hasn't been any kind of receiver yet. But if Gronk was out, Dwayne Allen obviously becomes an ad possibly. And that's maybe Ben Watson. Ben Watson for the Ravens. He had 8 catches, 91 yards. Solid game. I don't know if that's sustainable, but if this is the guy to watch, this is one of those deeper players to watch, Ben Watson. If he does this another week or 2, he's kind of just going to be forgotten, in a way. He's sitting there at 0.5% owned in ESPN right now. So if you're in a deeper league or you need a tight end, this is a guy to watch a couple weeks and maybe he ends up being. I mean, look at how many didn't Pitta basically lead the league in catches or targets or something at tight end, even how bad he was at times. Well, he didn't do much with it, but if you just need a guy with guaranteed targets. All right, any other players to add, Jeff? Anybody I'm missing?
No, none of the tight end. Anyone else that's down there that you're thinking about? Because I can, you see the wheels spinning in people's heads. They're looking at these rookies down there. You're talking about Njoku, who just caught a touchdown. Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. Obviously, Brate's not a rookie, but I still say no. Njoku did catch a touchdown. That's great to see. But at the same time, most of these guys are only going to get 2 to 4 catches, and you're really banking on touchdowns at that point. And there's no way to predict that, especially on really bad teams, which they're on. So, I don't see anyone else. No. I think it's really, really kind of bare bones when you get this low on tight end at the moment.
All right, some defenses. We'll end it with quarterback, a little more exciting, but I'll talk about if there's any streaming defenses here. The Steelers are owned in just over 50% of leagues, so if they are out there in yours, playing against the Bears this upcoming week could be a pretty good matchup. I'd use them there. The Ravens against the Jaguars, that could be pretty solid too. The Jags haven't been great, but then again, they'll throw those garbage time touchdowns and ruin your defensive score. So that's probably what will happen. Rams didn't look good this past week, but they're getting in a good matchup again with San Francisco, so they might be another streaming option down there. And then maybe they didn't look like it this past week, but The Cowboys against Arizona could be something because Arizona has just been bad. They haven't been very good. So if you're really desperate, maybe that's a matchup. I'd like to pick the team going against the Colts or the team going against the Browns, but the Colts and Browns are going against each other. So what's that going to be?
That's actually interesting. I'm wondering. I don't think that you're going to get like a huge point spike. I don't think you're going to get 20 points on them. But at the same time, I think Colts are that bad. And Cleveland is interesting. No, I mean, they have Joe Burrow.
Maybe Cleveland's a play.
Yeah, they have these young guys that are kind of coming out here and looking okay. I mean, it's not like they went negative in the first 2 weeks as bad as their offense is. So the Browns could be kind of a sneaky one to play. I think that one, I'm going to be rooting for that one. I probably don't have the balls to actually do it. But that's one that I'll be interested in.
All right, then quarterback. Carson Wentz, if he's still out there in your league and you have like a Dalton or, I don't know, some one of those kind of guys, maybe, Carson Wentz have him ahead of them. I think Carson Wentz is a player who should almost be owned in most leagues. If not, he's definitely a streaming option for you. I don't know. I mean, against the Giants, he might be okay, but I think he's good enough at this point. The way he's shown and the willingness to throw the ball around a little bit, he's going to be a good play most weeks this year. So, and he's had two, relatively tough matchups on the road, and he's played really well in both of them. So he's a guy I would definitely I'd pick him up over Simeon. I like Simeon if we saw more, but it's definitely Wentz. Wentz should be on your radar for sure. But yeah, if you're one of those people that waited and got Andy Dalton, maybe you got Tyrod Taylor, Carson Palmer, those kind of players, I want Carson Wentz right now over them.
Yeah, and I thought maybe week one, having 23 points was more of doing week one against Washington. People are, rusty, this and that. He was at Kansas City last week, and you saw what they were able to do against Brady. And he put up almost 30 points against them.
Yep.
A couple touchdowns, over 300 yards rush or passing. The guy's looking real, real sharp right now, and I think he's a legitimate contender for a starting spot in someone's team.
Yep. No, I definitely agree there. Now let's see if there's the streaming options this week probably aren't great. There's really just not much I trust this week down there if you're streaming. And maybe it's going to be like a Wentz maybe.
What do you think about if Bradford is back against Tampa Bay?
Maybe.
He went against New Orleans, so you have to take that into account how bad they've looked both games.
I want to see something from Bradford against a real defense.
I do too, because I have a feeling that was blown out of proportion. I mean, 31 points from Bradford is already kind of eye-popping, but at the same time, the way he did it so dominantly, I think that probably not exactly where he's at, but I think he would probably be a safer one if you're looking to stream.
And maybe Cutler against the Jets.
He didn't look bad. He didn't
do much yet, but that could be something. Or Deshaun Kaiser against the Colts. He was okay in week one. He was hurt most of week two, but he did throw 3 picks and he fumbled the ball, so that was pretty brutal.
Baltimore's defense does look pretty
good.
Legit, though.
So the thing is, I like the matchup, but you can't play him honestly after what he did last week. No, all those turnovers, you can't do it. As good as the matchup is.
Yeah, and I would rather play a Simeon over him. I'd definitely rather play Wentz. And
would you play Wentz over Mariota this week? Mariota going against the Seahawks? If you're going that streaming route, Mariota hasn't been as good as I hoped yet. So
no, he hasn't. It's one of those things where it's hard to get over the name. Wentz is going against the Giants, which aren't necessarily a bad defense.
No, they have some solid corners.
So I don't think it's a great matchup necessarily. But that would, I'd be very. Actually, no, I probably would. I would. Yeah. I think just Mariota has to kind of prove it to me now because he's gone against 2 teams he should have kind of dominated and he hasn't.
Yep. All right, I think that's it for the waivers this week. Again, not terribly exciting options. Hopefully, we have some coming up in a week or two. I mean, maybe that is going to be that would be like a Chris Carson in 2 weeks or next week. He has one more great week, and then it's really an ad you have to do. But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do some rankings. We'll have quarterbacks, running backs. And we'll talk to you guys then.